It's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Buddy, welcome to JJ and Alex. It's a football Friday, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are here in beautiful Farmington, Utah, where we got some high school football going on tonight. Second round of the 6A high school football playoffs, where the Farmington Phoenix, the 5 seed in the 6A playoffs, will host the 12 seed, the American Fork Cavemen. I'll be on the call with Sly. That starts at 6 p.m. You can stream that game, watch that game live on the KSL Sports app, KSL Plus app, or on your laptop at KSLSports.com. Stevenson, Sylvester, Riley, Nelson in with us today, as always. Alex Curie on vacation, taking a spa day. How did that work?
Loser.
Who approved that?
His wife.
The boss, is what you're saying.
It's anniversary weekend for him, so I get it.
Yes.
I get it.
Yeah. No, in fact, today is his anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he got married in the fall?
Yeah.
Stupid,
Smart guy.
right?
There's so many
You know
character
what? I did it
flaws
too.
How does
with
that
this
happen?
guy.
I did it too.
So
you
many
know,
character flaws.
we're not in charge in that. You know.
Well,
During
come on
the
now.
football season?
That's
Are
a
you
deal
serious?
breaker.
If that helps you sleep at night, whatever.
Well, she knows what it is. If it's a football, we celebrate. We don't actually celebrate it on the day. We find an empty day during the week, most likely a Wednesday, and that's how we get it done.
That could be a deal breaker. So Alex is out today, family duty. We're here, though. We're ready to rock and roll. It's kind of rivalry week, guys.
Almost.
Weird. I don't remember. I've covered this game for 20 years now. I don't remember either team having a bye the week before, let alone both teams having a bye before this big game. Kind of weird. How would that be for teams preparing for this game to have to deal with it for 2 weeks? Let it simmer for 2 weeks.
It originated with the Iron Bowl, didn't it? Like back when Auburn was up, like Auburn and Alabama, they did that. Like they were kind of the first ones to kind of what am I trying to say? They were trying to not like be in cahoots, but like coordinate bye weeks so that Iron Bowl.
Neither team got
everybody's equal.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So it's okay, but also the 2 weeks of lead up is not. It just feels out of rhythm. It feels like a false start.
Right.
Because like after the games last week closed out, you're like rivalry week, baby, and then it's like that's so unfulfilling.
But it's not.
It's like,
what am I going to do tomorrow?
People that it's not this week.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
That's crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
And honestly, I'm going to start him earlier, although Sly's, he knows. We know. I was going to say that if I'm Coach Whittingham.
I need this.
Well, no, I was going to say the Heward news came out. When did that come out?
This morning.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say it's bad for them because how many more players are going to drop and quit on this team this year?
Jeez.
It's a cultural thing unlike I've ever known. I mean, I remember the MAC teams, but, I was a young kid. I was a middle schooler, high schooler. I didn't pay that close of attention. So really all I've known at Utah is a Kyle Whittingham run program, and I have never – and these are probably legitimate injuries and legitimate surgeries. And granted, Heward's never been higher than 4th on the depth chart.
Right.
So what are we talking about here?
And the word was it was always going to be a red shirt.
I know,
for him anyway.
but still, like, if I'm the SID up there, like, get the media's not doing you any favors because you just feel like every other week someone's, like, chalking it up on the chalking it up for the rest of the season.
It's weird right now, isn't it? Sly, it's a weird feeling.
It's a
Or something.
That's a loss for
or
word.
something
How about
else.
that?
Sly doesn't know what to say.
Sylvester,
I really don't, man.
Speechless.
It's plagued, man, and I can't even remember. Like just after the Baylor game, I interviewed Whit, and he's just like, "Why does this keep happening to us?" He's so bewildered at these injuries, just going crazy, and so like just the weirdest things is circling this team the last couple years, and I mean it is what it is. You got to roll with the punches, as they say. Next man up, next opportunity. Can't sweat it. The world still moves on. Blah blah blah. But I guess we now know Sam Heward is not a part of the conversation at quarterback.
He's not. So there's 2 guys left.
Luke Batari's still there.
Batari, the Ferrari. They might have to break out
Right.
the Ferrari just like
Bring
they
that
had
long
to last
hair
year.
out.
I hope we get a chance at some point in the show. I've got a game plan that I'll
Okay.
email Coach Spajakian because I want he's a local boy. Like I want to champion local boys. I want Isaac to do well, and also the rivalries. No good. Trust me, haven't been on the. I was only on the end of one blowout, but it was the worst blowout, one of the worst blowouts ever. That 54-10. I didn't play that game, but the rivalry is better when it's
played that
competitive.
game.
So if they need some,
wouldn't have been 54-10 if you played in that game.
But if they need some game plan notes, I think I got some stuff that might help them that maybe at some point during our show today we can talk about.
I think at 3:30 is going to be a perfect time. We're going to talk about the quarterback situation at Utah. We're going to talk about the rivalry game. We'll look back a little bit to last week. I haven't had a chance to hear from you guys on what happened last week, so we'll dig into that. Sly a little bit, obviously.
Yeah,
we got into it on Monday.
Nothing happened last
But I'd love
week.
to revisit that wound again today. The show is brought to you, as always,
Cut me
by
open again, Jer.
G2G Bars. They call me the surgeon. With all natural ingredients, no preservatives, and plenty of protein, G2G Bars are perfect for anyone who needs a tasty and nutritious boost. Utah BYU's the cut. Here we go on a Football Friday.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
JJ and Alex also brought to you by Trajan Wealth. Give them a call today, your local financial fiduciary. If you have a business, you need a 401k plan or different things like that, they can help you with that. If you're getting ready to retire, they can help you with that. There's all kinds of things they can help you with. TrajanWealth.com or call them at 801-899-7600. All right, before we look ahead, before we look way back, I want to get we'll touch on the rivalry memories a little bit coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. But real quickly, I wanted to revisit last week. And let's start with BYU. Because, Riley, I really thought BYU proved something to everybody last week. Because we started to wonder a little bit after the Oklahoma State game, right? They gave us a little bit of doubt. They did not handle the run game very well. They had to have a miraculous end to keep the perfect season alive. Vegas had them as 2.5-point underdogs against a UCF team that had lost 4 straight games. What did BYU prove last Saturday in that game against UCF that maybe we didn't know yet or maybe we know now?
So in the Bronco Mendenhall era, which I played in, we virtually never lost to a team that we shouldn't lose to. But conversely, we never really beat teams that we weren't supposed to beat.
Yep.
You know, there's a couple of big wins and some banner wins in there, but like
Oklahoma.
I know,
Yeah.
but Oklahoma, like, not to discredit, because I was on that team and I fly that flag as high as anybody. But if Sam Bradford doesn't get hurt, and they bring in Landry Jones, the entire complexion of that game changed. You know, with 11 minutes left in the second quarter. So anyway, now transition over to the Kalani Sitake era. Winning games they have no business winning, like back when they beat Wisconsin.
There's a good, solid, really
Wisconsin
impressive list.
Wisconsin
Tennessee.
Camp Randall.
I mean,
Tennessee.
there's a lot of great wins.
The Baylor on Lavelle.
Baylor when they were ranked 9th.
Yeah, there was even one. I saw someone was going over it on Twitter today. They were like 2-3 at some point, and Boise came in, was ranked 16.
Yes.
They beat Boise that week, I think.
Beat USC back in 2019.
So anyway, but then they turn around and let's count the bad losses, right? They lost to Northern Illinois. They lost to
Toledo.
I remember dragging my butt all the way across the country, losing to Liberty by 30.
Yeah.
Right, losing to Toledo. So they traded a higher ceiling for a lower floor and all this volatility. All this way to answer your question, what did we learn about BYU? 8 games in, they're not losing to teams, and they got maybe a couple traps left, but like that UCF traveling all the way to Orlando, they hadn't really been tested by a run-oriented team, the rush defense, all this stuff, and they handle business. So they proved that this team is different in that. I think the Kansas State game was winning a game they probably shouldn't have won, and then UCF was that game that they probably shouldn't have lost, that they lose, but they didn't lose it this year.
Another thing is, especially in independents, Octobers were an issue.
Yeah.
And was usually because of depth, right? You have those big games in September. BYU would win some of those games, but it would wear the team down. Some key guys got hurt, and then things fell apart in October. You mentioned that Boise State win. There was those Octobers where they'd lose 3-4 games in a row. I remember the Toledo game. It was like, how are you guys losing this game? You mentioned the Liberty game. It was just inexcusable. East Carolina on your home field. They didn't do that this year. That's huge because, A, it proves that there's a focus and a confidence in this team to not have that kind of a letdown. And B, it shows that they've got more depth than they've had previously.
Talking about depth and injury, Sly kind of alluded to this before we got into the cut, but I want to maybe bridge this over to Utah, because one of the things that I noticed in that UCF game, as soon as the game was in control, like the play calling changed and the rotations changed, meaning that, okay, maybe they've built up depth on their actual roster, but also I feel like they are architecting game plans and calling plays in a way that protects their players. I played on teams at BYU where, like, when we were out man against, like, we had to throw everything against the wall. And when you are working at the extreme of your capability, your likelihood for injury is greater. Versus now, BYU gets up, they're scoring early. They got a great track record of scoring early. They get the game in control, and they kind of throttle back. They're no longer sitting in sixth gear. Yeah. They can shift it back to fourth gear, still get the win, get everybody out of there healthy. And I feel like now transitioning over to Utah's had to make up for Cam Rising. They've had to, defense is trying to do more, trying to score. You got maybe guys having to push to that extremity, and maybe that's led into some of their depth issues. I don't know. What do you think, Sly?
I have a different opinion on doing that. I see what you're saying, and I definitely think teams do that all the time, but I hate when teams do that.
Pulling it off.
If you could score, right? What was the Baylor game this year like for BYU? Right? You get up 28-7, 28-0, you damn near let them come all the way back.
Yep.
Yeah. Right? And so that's what I hate. I like, put them in the dirt. I don't let off the gas till the fourth quarter if I'm up by 28+. But personnel, whatever, I'm still on the attack. That's my philosophy. So if I'm ever a coach, you just know that that's not happening for me. I'm not pulling off the gas. I don't care about my opponent's
What about
feelings.
Shifting the attack to where you're just trying to shorten the game in that you're still running your best stuff, but if it's your best rush stuff.
Yeah, run short passes, run screens.
Yeah.
You're still running the clock that way, but you're still being aggressive in certain capacities. Run short passes, the slants, right? You may not get a lot of yards, but you're getting stuff. Right? Like, you can still be aggressive in some capacities and still be safe, right? Say I'm running those. I guess if you want to prevent a turnover, the bubble screen stuff, like that's high risk plays. But like, you can do things that are still. You tell the quarterback, look, if the fade isn't there to attack downhill, keep it, take the sack.
Yeah.
Or try to run with your legs. Right? That's at the end of the game. That's keeping the clock going. Yada yada yada. And I'm with that. But BYU's been doing a great job of running the football. They had 252 yards rushing and 40 minutes of freaking time of possession.
Yeah. And now they got LJ Martin going.
Those are my two. Back to back 100-yard
Now
games.
you're getting 100-yard rusher.
Yeah,
and that's a big deal.
Those are my two big statistics when I go and look at a football game: time of possession and rushing yards. That means you're in control.
Yeah.
Right? And they're 40 minutes. Utah was 42 minutes against Oklahoma State this year. I know we didn't freaking score that many points, but we were in control. And so that's the same thing with BYU. 40 minutes on the clock, going all the way 2 time zones, making that happen. That's dominance right there. And so, again, that's me not throttling off, keeping the gas going, change personnel, whatever, because those guys want to score too. So you want to keep that excitement going and keep them going with all of that. But, for me, BYU is just doing a good job right now because I think they understand that they got a team.
Yeah.
And they're playing confident.
Yeah.
They're playing Kalani, I call it, right? They're playing like Kalani. They're playing extremely confident to where they can throttle off and be okay.
Yeah.
Right? And they've been tested in those short wins, short capacities, letting teams back in the game. They've seen it all. Good defenses, SMU, they've been in those close contests where they're not, okay, we're in this close contest, what am I going to do? They're not questioning themselves, and that's what makes BYU dangerous.
And I will also add that Aaron Roderick and Jay Hill are both coaching like Kalani. You know what I mean? Like, they are confident. They know that they have guys that are going to go execute what they want them to do. Last year, it didn't feel that way at all.
Right.
And there's been past years at BYU where it didn't feel that way at all. But right now, even in special teams, to trust your guys to run that fake field goal, which was executed perfectly,
right.
I mean, there's a confidence with everything they're doing right now, and it's very aggressive, but they believe in their players that they're going to be able to execute. And I feel like Utah doesn't believe, and that's part of the biggest problem here, is there seems to be a lack of trust a lot around, and no one's talking about it. Everyone's saying the right things.
Right.
But here's the harsh reality. Your quarterback's not getting it done.
Yeah, I was going to say belief follows performance.
Absolutely.
No,
and
you know what belief that's not backed by performance is? It's delusion.
Right.
So,
and there was some delusion with Cam. Let's be honest, because the performance this year, even when he was healthy, wasn't up to his standard.
No.
So, Sly, now that we transition to Utah, where do the Utes go from here? Because 4 losses in a row feels like the sky is falling. Mm-hmm. Truth is, back in 2017, Utah went through a similar series where they lost 4 games in a row.
They got it together.
Tyler Huntley was a sophomore. Zach Moss, they were a young Utah team, but the sky didn't fall. They figured some things out. So what does Utah need to do right now at this point to get this under control so this doesn't spiral into a program issue instead of just a season issue?
Yeah, and everybody needs to realize the sky is falling because of the expectations for this year, right? I don't think the expectations in 2017 were what the expectations are today.
Not even close, no.
Right? And so that's why it feels that way. Because, I mean, we've lost 4 straight games. What's the most we've lost by in those games? 6 points?
Yeah.
Right?
If you score 24 points in all those games, you only lose one of them.
Right.
By 3 points.
And that's what I keep saying to my BYU dudes as we're talking about this. I was like, that D is still for real. It hasn't ended up in wins, but just look at the box scores.
They're still
14
top
points,
of the
10
nation
points, 7. I know, and so many things.
Yeah.
You can combine that plus an 8:30 start in Rice-Eccles Stadium. Although I've seen something that I haven't seen in my entire life.
TCU game, don't bring it up.
Well, no, I'm saying, have y'all looked on like StubHub and stuff?
Yeah.
Cheap tickets?
Yeah. Well, just availability.
Yeah.
It's like it's so broad.
Some
like,
folks are
there
selling their
Utah
tickets.
season tickets?
But that's what I'm saying.
Some Utah
What's
fans
going
who hold
on?
those tickets are looking to cash out.
Right.
Interesting.
And I get it.
And who are they going to be gobbled up by?
You know who?
Not a higher bidding Ute.
You know who.
I don't
They're
know
wearing
about
blue.
that.
Definitely don't want to see blue in that stadium.
Oh, you're going to see it.
But I think your question was, where do they go from here?
How do they stop the bleeding here and not allow this to become let it bleed into next season and beyond?
Yeah.
Because it feels like there's a fragility here, Sly.
Dig in.
We've talked about it off air. There's a fragility here I'm worried about because you just lost your offensive coordinator midseason. There's an identity with him. And a lot of teams are using negative recruiting against Utah with Kyle Whittingham's departure, whether it's this year or next. We know he's going to be gone soon. So there's uncertainty with Kyle Whittingham's future there. There's a lot of uncertainty with that program right now. How do they solidify this? How do they figure it out to not allow this to spiral into something that's negative beyond the season?
Well, for me, it's simple. You just got to dig in, right? The pieces are here. The framework is here. I mean, we're using negative recruiting, and I know these young kids aren't going to understand this, but, like, you need framework, right? As you said, like, it's here. Coach Whittingham is leaving, but we're leaving it in somebody who's been here for over a decade, right? It's here. Everything is here. The players are here. The support is here. You got the administration is here. This is all together. Now, when you leave, that's when things start fraying and fracturing. If you dig in right now, next year, whatever it is, fans too, if you dig in, it's all still here. So don't make it go all over the place and think that it's broken, and it's not. We just got to dig in our feet and make it happen. As Riley said, like, this defense is still here. This offense can be still here. The talent is here. Right? Just dig in, refocus, and get it done. Like, you don't need to go get another player. You're not going to get it this late in the season anyway. But, like, dig in with what you have.
Yeah, the cavalry's not coming. So
you are the cavalry.
Yeah, exactly.
Wake up, slap each other, do whatever you got to do. That's what I'm saying. My dig in is wake up. That's all you got to do. That game against BYU next week can be awesome if you dig in. You have the people. Just make it work. Dig in.
And Utah fans will forget about that 4-game losing streak quick.
Real good. Oh, yeah.
If Utah spoils BYU's perfect season.
I'd love to be the guy to do that.
So that should be motivation, right?
Oh, yeah, simple.
So let's see how this Utah team responds next week. We know where BYU's at. They're riding high. Guys doing national television interviews. It's an interesting spot where both of these teams are right now as we enter this rivalry game. One thing that I think is going to really help Utah would be if they got some better production out of quarterback. We'll talk about that next. Riley, you got a game plan you think that can help. We'll dig into that next right here on a Football Friday. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And now, a look at traffic from the KSL Traffic Center.
Our first look at traffic for your Friday afternoon drive. Well, in Utah County, we have a couple of crashes. Northbound I-15 in Spanish Fork. This is right on the border going into Springville, and they have been blocking a left lane of traffic, and this is causing some backups. Then on the southbound side of I-15 in that same vicinity, a crash in Springville at 4th South. The rest of I-15 in Utah County looks good. Southbound I-15, Salt Lake County, already filling in and slowing down between 4500 South Murray to 72nd South in Midvale. No problems on the rest of your Salt Lake County freeways. Advanced Window Products offers Graber window coverings. High-end quality with the best warranty. Save 30% off when you mention KSL. AdvancedWindows.com. From the KSL Traffic Center, I'm Ricky Meese on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's the calm before the storm.
Lassiter getting it in! Touchdown!
For the first time since 2010,
Touchdown! Caleb Lover!
the Holy War will feature Utah versus BYU as conference rivals.
Keeper from Retzloff. Retzloff shakes him up at the 5, the touchdown! Big boy football, Mekhi Bernard into the end zone.
And never have we seen so much on the line for both schools over the next 2 weeks. The Zone will get you ready for another chapter of this historic rivalry.
We going to war, baby.
Where so much is on the line for both schools. Your home for the best coverage of Utah and BYU football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I'm ready for war.
It's a Friday, and we're talking football non-stop. All football, all the time. This is another edition of Football Friday with JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hey, don't miss your chance to win big every week on the KSL Sports Zone. Listen to the KSL Sports Zone all day on Wednesday for your chance to win. Who knows what you're going to win this week, but it's going to be cool.
It's going to be something.
You know what? Who could use a win? Utah.
My boys.
Now the question is, how can they do it? All right, and especially against a team that's playing like BYU right now. I think the key, guys, and it's pretty clear and obvious. It's pretty clear and obvious what the problem is at the offense, and I have a hard time being overly critical about it because we're talking about a true freshman that's thrown into a situation that nobody planned for, that he wasn't ready for.
Right.
But he got thrust into it, and it is what it is right now. But the truth is it hasn't been good enough. They haven't got enough production out of that position in this 4-game losing streak. So how do they fix it right now? Because like you said in the last segment, Sly, you got to dig in right now, okay? So you got a bye week to dig in and figure it out. So what is Utah doing right now? They opened up a quarterback competition during the bye week. So Brandon Rose and Isaac Wilson are going head-to-head this week, 50-50 reps. Somebody here knows a lot about quarterback competitions. It's Riley Nelson. So have you ever seen something like this? Week 10? It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, like, psychology and culture stuff going on. They're trying to shock it. But, like, look, at this point, you are 9. This is going to be your 9th game of the season. Like, here's what I haven't seen yet with Isaac Wilson. I think Isaac Wilson is the guy unless you have unless he has so many scars from his experience up to this point in the season that you need to just like let him heal and regroup and give him a spring ball and some of that time to forget. Like if he truly isn't that guy. But listen, there should not be a drop back pass game in the playbook. You can get enough off of he should be moving in the pocket. Sorry, let me back up. As to having watched Isaac Wilson 2 years at Corner Canyon, and this dude goes down and gives number 1 team in the nation, Bishop Gorman, all they can handle.
The business.
Yeah, watch him. You know, they came up short, but then watching him run the state in Utah. Isaac didn't play perfect, and Isaac actually was not like this surgeon from the pocket. Their quarterfinal game, so it was at Corner Canyon, and I think they were playing Lone Peak last year in the quarters.
Yep.
It was 7-6 or like 10-7 or something. Lone Peak was up. They were up like 7-6 or they were up 10-7. Corner Canyon ended up winning that game, something like 35-14. Kerr comes out in the third quarter, and Isaac had like 8 straight runs. The dude plays so much better, more confident, more loose, more instinctive, more athletic when he is using his natural athletic ability. to expect him to be productive from the pocket, especially given the circumstances of this season. So, if you don't have design QB run in the play, and look, he's not gonna replace. I'm not talking about running him for production. I'm talking about running him for his own sake.
Confidence.
Yeah, but if you don't have QB run, you better install a QB power, install a quick GT in there. A fold draw. There's some very simple things that you can install that are basically the same thing, but rather than same thing that the offense is already running, rather than him handing it off, Isaac's running it. Do that. Anytime the ball should come out of his hand, the ball should come out of his hand outside the tackle box. It should be off play action. It should be straight roll out, straight sprint out. Borrow BYU's, Aaron Roderick's, borrow this dash concept that they do, where they take kind of the two-step drop, invite the edge rushers inside, then they pin him inside, and you get outside the pocket. But dash, sprint out, play action, and get the dude running. That is your best chance for success, because that's the best way to get Isaac out of his head. I used to joke when I was playing that I really didn't start seeing the field until I had a grade 1 concussion. and the reason
I know what you mean though.
But that was two-field. One, I was overly analytical. If I look back at one of my biggest weaknesses for
Riley?
I know, right? You couldn't believe it. But I was overly analytical, so I kind of need that physicality to get me back into the instinctual kind of animal nature of the game. But then second is it happens naturally when you start breathing heavy and your body's responding, trying to give resources to your brain and your muscles and all that stuff. It just automatically, physiologically brings you down to a much closer to a flow state and gets you out of your game. I watch Isaac and I look in his eyes and I look at him looking over at the sideline and I look at him calling. The way you can tell, the way that he steps into the huddle, here's telltale. Okay, here's what I'd be coaching Isaac up on this. But I see it. He either gets it into his helmet or gets it from the sideline. He opens it up. His eyes go straight to the wristband, right? A lot of his calls in the huddle are off the wristband. Here's what a vet QB does. Does that? No, okay. They close it. They leave it, they close it. They walk into the huddle. They look the guys in the eyes. They start the play call. It's still there just to make sure that you're double checking, not reading anything. You're reading it, but you're not really reading it because you got the playbook memorized. And you're saying that while you're looking the guys in the eyes. You close it. Hey, remember on this, right?
Finish the call.
Yeah, if you finish the call, if you got the 5 technique, remember your spacing on that. We want to be 2 yards inside our normal landmark or whatever onto it, and then you break. What I see from Isaac is he gets the call, he reads it, he goes into the huddle, does not make eye contact with anybody in the huddle, reads the play, says ready, break, closes it, everybody claps, and everybody goes. And I know that there's a little bit of command, that some of that can be learned as a freshman, but that for me just tells me that he's calling stuff that he's still questioning and calling. So get him out of his own head and run the stuff that he knows and he likes, and that Care ran at Corner Canyon. And that is
for weeks, yeah.
And that is running the football. He is an athlete at quarterback. He is not yet a quarterback who is athletic. He is an athlete playing quarterback, and so play to those strengths and eliminate all that stuff, and that's going to give you your best chance if Isaac is the horse you're riding. He's like, hey man, I've been saying that.
No, I'm not that. It's I agree with you. You want to see the tempo, exactly what he's saying. The transition from play to play. Receiving the call out of the huddle, relaying it to your guys in the huddle, and then pre-snap read before the snap. Look at that whole time before the last play, that whole transition. He is not confident with that, right? And that's not cool. Like if you watch him in Corner Canyon, it's we were here covering his Corner Canyon Farmington game.
You and I called the game
year.
right on this turf a year ago.
He had surgery that week.
Yes.
And still came out. We're like, I don't know. I know I was. I was like, I don't know. I don't know why he's doing that. It's just Farmington. Yada. And he crushed it. 6 touchdowns in the first half.
Yeah.
And he was running the ball. He was doing all kinds of stuff. And so, but the way he was getting in and out of the huddle, I got this, is what I saw. Now, when you're in the huddle, what you're saying, Riley, is completely correct, but also the way he's articulating it. The confidence in his voice when he is saying the plays, the guys can feel that. And that can change everything. I'm just thinking that you're saying that, I'm just like Aaron Rodgers. I know when Big Ben's in the huddle, that guy had the ultimate confidence. He had the craziest deal, and I'm just like, I could play behind that. I can get that, and I get it. So it's not exactly reading it as well, but it's how you're doing it. Your swagger, you're in and out. You are the leader. You are carrying the morale of the offense. I think that's why Cam Rising being out just killed everything.
Yeah.
And so, like, you get this overzealous young guy, you got to reinstill in everybody that you got this, right? Everybody that's young, freshmen, Jaden Daniels right now in the league, who's been another freshman that's just taken over an offense.
C.J. Stroud last year.
Right? He's came in there with this swagger, this confidence, and like, look, I got you guys, right? You got me, I got you. Let's make this happen. Boom, play. Right? Cam Rising, when he took over for Charlie Brewer 2 years ago, San Diego State.
Yeah.
The way he got in there, he's like, I got it. First play, he takes off and runs for 15, 20 yards, something like that, and hits the defender. You see the whole sideline. Oh, he jumped up, got back in the huddle. Everybody's like, oh, he's going, we going.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen.
The other thing, I know technically eligibility-wise he's a true freshman, but he ain't a true freshman anymore. Like, he's played in how many games now? 7, right?
Right.
Played in 7 games?
He's been here since January.
Yeah, and he's been here since January. So it's like no more to eliminate those excuses. We need the command. We need that. Here's another thing when I talk about going back to, like, game plan action mechanics. I looked this up. BYU's got 11. The defense got 11 picks on the season. 8 of them are between the hashes. Like, they're linebackers and playing games with the QB's eyes, gaining depth, and then those safeties and taking advantage of things like tip balls and driving on in-breaking routes. That is their specialty. It's not like they got a bunch of, like, who's the dude for the Cowboys? It's Diggs, but Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah, Trayvon.
It's not like they got Trayvon Diggs. It's on the edge, picking off a bunch of passes one-on-one or jumping out routes to the sideline. BYU causes a lot of havoc. Those linebackers and those safeties are great. That's where the majority of their interceptions come. So that's another reason why if I'm Bajakian or if I'm Utah, I'm like, I want Isaac out of the pocket. I want us trying to complete balls outside the hashes. It's okay. Like, that's one concession I'm willing to make. I'm willing to make concessions of completing balls over the middle of the field in this game. There are plenty other ways for us to gain yards and put together drives. And by there, you eliminate exponentially the potential for negative stuff happening to Isaac if you can pull him out of his shell during this QB competition and during this bye week. You know, the one worry is something negative happens and it goes right back in. But the game plan can kind of limit that downside if architected properly.
Yeah, some observations I've seen to back up what you're saying, Riley, and you, Sly, is watching Isaac the last 2 years in high school, especially as a senior year, play with so much joy, fire, confidence, and swagger. And now I'm watching him now, and like, I don't recognize this kid.
That kid, yeah.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Riley. He's pulling the thing up. He's looking at it. He's going on. He's just executing the play. He's going through the there's not that joy and that fire, and maybe I'll call it that alpha that you're getting at, where Kyle always referred to Cam as an alpha dog, like he's the alpha.
Why would he do that, right?
It's what Riley's talking about. Is you can come he comes into the huddle and everything changes like that. Like there's a response to it. There's a confidence with what he's doing. That's what's missing from Utah's offense right now.
Letting him get out and run and make plays with his feet contributes to that in a huge way.
Another observation I've made. What were the two most successful games that Isaac played this year? Utah State and Oklahoma State. What did he do in those games? He got out and ran. He made some big plays with his legs. He had a nice play in the Utah State game when they were struggling, where he almost scored on down the goal line, and everything kind of changed after that, and he got hot in that third quarter and got him going in that game. Oklahoma State, he had that big, 30, 40-yard run, and then all of a sudden the offense started getting going a little bit more. Riley, you're exactly right. You've got to get him doing exactly that.
It's a rhythm.
You got to get him out of his head and out of the pocket.
He was the leading ball carrier. Now, some of these are sacks, but 150 carries, 1,300 yards in high school. And I know this isn't high school, but I'm just saying that that's part of his,
a 1,000-yard rusher.
Game.
If you can run for 1,300 yards at the 6A level in Utah.
4,000 yards passing, too?
Yeah.
1,000 yards rushing, 4,000 yards passing. He was getting it
over
done.
5,000 yards of total offense.
In the state championship game, he had a 70-yard, 80-yard run. We're like, dang.
For a touchdown, yeah.
I'm like, oh, this kid can get out.
Right.
He doesn't look like that, and that's a confidence thing, and I think you got to build that back by doing things like that.
I think, let's assume he's going to win this quarterback competition during the bye week, and they got to get him right and get him going for BYU.
If they don't start him, they're basically fine letting him transfer.
I wouldn't transfer.
I agree. I wouldn't. I'm not saying it's the prudent thing, but I'm saying in college football in 2024, that's what's going to happen.
I would be.
Would be what?
Fine with letting him transfer.
Oh.
Get
You think you've
out.
seen enough?
No.
You're saying if he wants to go,
if
let him go.
you want to leave,
Yeah.
leave. And that's the problem with Utah right now. We're coddling all these kids' freaking feelings. I don't want you to leave, so let me force this into you. Brent Keithy, don't leave. Dorian Singer, don't leave. Yeah, let me force the ball into you. And we suck.
The tough thing is that
Stop coddling these kids.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to leave, football is not easy. Whenever it's easy, you lose.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
You know who didn't leave, Sly? Mekhi Bernard.
Yeah.
Who's been their best player this year?
And Mekhi
Bernard.
always been put back on the back burner
He's
as
had
far as the
reasons to
running back
leave.
position.
Yeah.
He's had many reasons to leave, and he stayed, and he led this team this year. Even the first game of the year, SUU, he got 5 carries. And then every game after that, he was getting his carries. He was getting 17, 18, 20. He was getting 130, 140 yards a game. And then we took it back. 11 carries here, 13 carries here. He's always had to take the back burner. We don't want to give him 25-plus carries.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
I'm speaking more broad stroke culturally. I don't want my comments to be misconstrued as like some prediction because Mike Wilson, the dad of who's raised, all these great players and all that stuff, I think he believes what you believe. And but in spite of that, it is just the culture now. Like if you get somewhat embarrassed or you feel that you're in any way typecast, nobody hangs around to like take that bet of whether or not they're going to be able to overcome it. They go try and hit the restart button.
Right. And if you have a bad experience.
Jack Tuttle did that.
And who just finally retired after playing how many places? Right. Same thing. He didn't even last a semester at Utah. You're right, though. In today's day and age, there's always this feeling of maybe there's something better out there. And kids are going to pursue that. And if they're really unhappy, we don't know. We don't know I'm speaking generally with these kids these days, with where they're going, with having now the ability to. They have the ability to transfer more often than they did in the past.
Successful transfers are running 2-something. Let's think about Dylan Gabriel, right? He runs to Oklahoma.
Right.
And then he runs to Oregon. Like, that dude's just chasing extra zeros, right, as far as NIL money goes.
Right.
But the guys,
it's a good opportunity too. You got Dan Lanning as your coach,
right? I know, and that's why. But I'm saying he's running to something. I can't really think of a situation where a guy ran away from something. Jalen Hurts back in the day, that was pre-NIL.
Jaden Daniels kind of ran away from something.
That was a different situation. Even Jaden Daniels' situation was different.
Right.
Arizona State was a mess.
Didn't he leave when Herm got fired?
Yeah.
That's not what I'm talking about.
He checked out mid-season, right?
Did he?
No, he didn't.
What they made that big deal about he's not here anymore. Remember they had that big thing in the locker room? Wasn't it?
No.
Am I remembering that wrong?
Yeah,
is Arizona State
I'm pretty sure when Herm left and that kind of program imploded was when he left.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't think so. We
can
look that up.
We'll look it up in the break.
There we go. We got time. We're going to get to a break right now. Great conversation. It continues next here on JJ and Alex on a Football Friday, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Jazz are the worst team in the NBA this year, and there are going to be loud fans that are just, the Jazz, why would I ever go to that? We get responses, I see it on my Twitter, etc. There are still 70,000 diehard Jazz fans that cannot wait to talk about the Jazz.
You know what's funny? Those same fans that you're talking about, with the Jazz, this bad. I guarantee you the overlap between that group and the group complaining that they didn't lose enough games is way higher than you think.
Oh, yeah, the Venn diagram's near a circle.
They're like the same people. Like, you just can't win with some people.
Yeah.
Like, I never thought the bottom would be this bad. Larry Miller is spinning in his grave, blah, blah, blah. It's the same person who was like, take note, why aren't they taking note? It's the same person.
Yep.
Which is bananas to me, but it's true.
Yeah, it's not gaslighting, but it doesn't matter what you do, you can't win.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody.
Real-life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest. And listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules First Federal Credit Union and Beehive Meals. I got a Utah Would You Rather and a BYU one. Let's start with Utah. Would you rather start Isaac Wilson this week or see what Brandon Rose could do with a full week of prep, reps, and a chance to play in the BYU game?
Are you asking me?
I'm
Me
asking
first?
both of you.
Oh, man. This is tough. This is why I don't envy none of the coaches' situations. You're in such a tough spot because you want to do something for the team, not the individual, right? You know you have to get Isaac Wilson's mental back, right? And you do that by playing him, showing him that you believe in him, yada, yada, yada. But it's not about him. It's about the team. So what's best for the team, right? Brandon Rose has been in this program for a long time. I don't know what your reason for not playing him in the past was. Why did you not throw him in at Northwestern when Bryson Barnes was trash?
Right.
Like, why did you not need a spark then? Right? Like, I don't know what their reason is for that, and maybe it's valid. Maybe he doesn't know the playbook. Maybe you can't trust him to run offense because the quarterback position is so tight. I don't know what that is. So I think the best decision, whatever this is, needs to be for the team, not the individual.
With so many opportunities that they have had in the last 2 seasons to trot Brandon Rose out there and play,
right?
It is so telling that they haven't. So what are we even talking about here? Like, unless I don't know. Unless
it sucks
Isaac's,
that we're talking about it, but it's the reality of the situation.
But I mean, from a Utah standpoint, like, there's got to be something that I don't know culturally about how Isaac just hasn't like gelled or fit in that locker room. Because what are you doing? Yeah, Brandon Rose has been passed up how many times? Obviously, the dude has not proven that he is it.
There. I don't know what that is. Yep. Yeah. So
they ain't saving him for this. They weren't saying like,
we'll wait till we're 4-4.
Yeah, let's wait till we're 4-4, and we need a guy to come rescue us in the rivalry game.
Going into an undefeated rivalry game against an undefeated team. That's what we were saving you for, Brandon. Come save us. No, that's not what you were saving for. So go with the game plan. Make the best decision for the team for me.
Yep.
So
Wilson.
Here's a BYU/Utah one. However you want to frame it for each of you. Would you rather see your favorite team in this rivalry game win the game in a blowout or win a classic?
Right now, for me, a blowout. I want a blowout. For me, just the way this
team would be amazing.
The way this team has gone this year, I want a blowout.
You got to score points to blow someone out.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it would be so surprising and so amazing. But
8:30 kick in Rice Stadium. I'm not messing with. Okay, last one. They were up 27.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through the last games in Rice Stadium. Okay.
Yeah.
Up 27. Game prior to that was Taysom went for 2, stuffed Taysom. That one wasn't at night, I don't think.
No.
Or that one wasn't like a night. I think that one kicked at like 5 or 6, but still, it happened when it was dark.
Correct.
One before that, if I'm not mistaken, JJ's pulling up on the laptop. I think that was me, senior year 2012. Missed 3 field goal attempts.
Yeah,
right?
we all remember. See what I'm saying? That's a classic, right?
No, it wasn't. my redshirt freshman. Talking about
not
wanting
a classic
to try someone
for you.
New. Talking about try someone new. Redshirt freshman.
There's only been 3 BYU games at Utah since then.
Yeah, because we had some off years.
Yeah, they didn't play.
It's alternating. Am I right? So it was.
Yeah.
That was 2019, 2017, or 16, something like that.
Isn't that crazy?
Then 2012, and then 2010. Another missed field goal.
Yeah, Brandon Burton blocked
blocked, because they were both blocked. My year, it was blocked, but it stayed in bounds, so we got the illegal foul on the field. Then we missed a second, line off offsides, moved 5 yards forward, and then we doink it off the left upright. But those are the last 4 games from Rice Stadium. So, and look, I think that Taysom year, Utah was probably the better team. So Utah probably punched above their weight. I also think that Zach Wilson year, I think Utah was probably the better team. I don't know if you guys remember, and I'm not quite remembering. JJ, you're pulling up the thing, so check me if I'm wrong on that. But like that 2019, Utah probably the better team.
No doubt. 2019, that team was great.
That was when Tyler went out and we had Jason Shelley, right?
Yeah,
that team was in the Pac-12 championship game.
Yeah, the fact that we were up in that game is like crazy, right?
Yep.
That's what the 2 targeting calls back to back.
Yeah,
Kalani went nuts.
That the Taysom
Francis
game,
Bernard pick 6.
You had Taysom and stuff, but that was early in the season. Ty Detmer, new offense, that wasn't the best. But so Utah probably, I don't know, that one's maybe even. I'd probably say Utah was a little bit better team that year. I don't know what records proved that year. 2012, I think we were better than that team. This pivotal plays. Obviously, it came down to it.
It was a 5-7 Utah team that year.
That's what I'm saying. We were better, and
100%.
we were 9-4. We lost that game for a couple of reasons. One, we were about to go up 10. Starlu Tulele got my freshman center. All sorts. We were in that south end or that north end zone. All sorts of nervous. Utah never. How often you run a 3-man front when you were there, Sly?
Well, we stopped after 2006
Yeah.
Harleen.
Okay, so they stopped. Yeah. Well, guess what? They went back because they knew we were starting a redshirt freshman center who was only 280 pounds against Starlo Tulele, 10th pick later on in that draft, and just worked it anyway. Center snaps it over the shoulder. Mike and Lisa and I do our best impression of Curly and Moe and run into each other trying to fall on it. Anyway, and then 2010, I don't remember what Utah was like, but Utah wasn't that great, but we weren't that great. But I think
2010 was the first year in the Pac-12. They actually overachieved that year. They went to the Sun Bowl.
Okay, and we were
That was 11.
and we were 6
Oh,
and
that's
6.
right. That was 11.
Was that 11?
Yeah, 2010 is when we lost to TCU.
That's
on
correct.
Game day.
2010.
I was like,
Utah.
I was out of here in 9.
Utah was 9-2 in 2010.
Okay, so Utah was the better team.
Correct.
So I guess what I'm
Sorry,
trying
I
to say.
confused the years. You're right. 2010 was the last Mountain West
I'm
year.
trying to go there to be like, all right. So we just went through the last 4 matchups.
Yeah.
One before that, we don't want to talk about for my boy Max Hall. We're not going to dredge up those memories, but we're going to go back to 2010. So Utah probably the better team. In 12, we were the better team. So probably of the last 4 matchups in Rice-Eccles Stadium, Utah was probably the better team twice. BYU was probably the better team twice, but Utah ended up winning all 4. All of which block field goal, missed 2-point conversion,
wild comeback,
up 20-7 going into the fourth quarter. All of which lose. So long way of saying winning a blowout. I want the like. If you give me my chance, I need the blowout because if it's even close,
you don't
there
care
is
about
some
historical
dark magic.
significance.
You
don't care what everyone remembers about the game. You just want to kick there. You know what?
I texted my boy Braden Brown. He was my my left tackle, right? So he was my right tackle. So as a lefty, he's protecting my blind side. And he's gone on. He's a great professional, and he's a doctorate himself. And he helps out, in addition to his day job, he helps out with some of the mental performance stuff on the football team. And I was sending him all these Lord of the Rings gifts because there is some there is some Sauron dark magic going on in Rice-Eccles Stadium when it comes to BYU. And so they need to be like humble little like Frodo. Going in there and just climbing the mountain and drop that ring in the fire so that we can
Was
get
Frodo
these
humble?
When he
put that ring on, he was something else.
Okay, Samwise. All right, then.
Samwise.
Yeah.
Sam was a humble guy. I like Sam.
Frodo kind of was an arrogant twerp.
Yeah,
I don't know how we got Lord of the Rings into a football show.
It's because of the dark magic of Rice-Eccles Stadium when BYU plays there. It doesn't happen with others.
It doesn't. Weird things happen on Rivalry Night. I can't wait to find out what happens. We're going to dig into this more. We're going to relive some of you guys' favorite rivalry moments. We'll get into that next here on a Football Friday. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.